Tape. Okay. So tonight I'm going to do some reading. I guess if you don't know by now, I am in recovery. I study Buddhism. I'm still a Christian, and probably my most significant spiritual experience has been through Alcoholics Anonymous. And today I was in a big book study and we read about fear and resentments. So I'm going to start off with reading. I'm just going to read what we read in the meeting today. I feel like I need to keep that at the forefront of my thinking right now because I've been in school and I've been working 2 jobs for the last 4 years, and my involvement in AA has dwindled. Um, Good stuff that I am healthy enough to maintain 2 jobs so I can pay my bills, and that I'm going to get this degree now. It's coming. I'm in my last 3 credits, and yeah, so there's some inventory that needs to be done because I'm still me, right? Uh, the last inventory I did was probably around 2014, like good inventory. Of course, there's daily inventory and then there's amends when necessary. And, but I find that when I get like really stressed out, being a good person kind of, I get selfish and I go, I don't have time for this, or I'm too busy, or I just keep letting things slide and let things slide. So I'm going to read this, and hopefully, if anybody gets hooks onto my live stream, and you're in AA, maybe you will hear something in this reading for you. It is about a page and a half. And then I am going to do a quiet meditation. I'm not going to play any music or anything. I'm just going to meditate and, not really try to think about what's going on, what I've read, but to meditate for the purpose of clearing my mind of the clutter so that I can do this work, right? So I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to try to be in the moment, and yeah, it's about emptying the mind, clearing the mind, not filling it up with more stuff, so that you are like, it clears a pathway so that you can and have a day that you can be available for others. So, anyway, I'm going to read. I got to put my glasses on. I got my little light here. So this is on page 66 at the bottom of the page. And this is where, we really have to start to do some work. This was our course. We realized that people who wronged us were perhaps spiritually sick. Though we did not like their symptoms and the way that these disturbed us, they, like ourselves, were sick too. We asked God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, and patience that I or we would cheerfully grant a sick friend. When a person offended, we said to ourselves, this is a sick man. How can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. Saying that somebody is sick is not always my first. My first thought is usually wrong, and I start to judge and, what a bitch, what an asshole. That's usually my first thought. I really wish I could say, when I feel offended, or, when I want somebody to grant me the same patience and tolerance, I wish that my first thought was, this is a sick man, but it just isn't. First thought wrong. Mark Lundholm says that all the time, and I crack up laughing every time he says it. But when I'm in a situation, somehow I seem to forget that, right? So how can I be helpful to him? God, save me from being angry. Thy will be done. Yeah, that doesn't always come following, my first thought, that's for sure. But when it does, when I realize that this is a sick man and I have to grant them the same thing that I want for myself, and God's will, not mine, be done. We avoid retaliation and argument. We wouldn't treat sick people that way. If we do, we destroy our chances of being helpful. We cannot be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So I can't save everyone, but daily, and I mean like steady daily, I work in a psych hospital. I am challenged. And most recently, I am challenged by a woman she is a magnified version of my mother. Um, it's kind of humorous that she is so much like they could have grown up in this, gone to the same Catholic school and had parents that were friends, or she could be a cousin or something like that. But it got me, but then when we read this yesterday, I'm like, man, I don't know what it's like to be in and out of facilities, because she talks about that. She talks about her medical history from 1985, and she's so delusional that she keeps asking for a medication that they stopped making in the 80s, and she wants us to get all of her medical records, and it's pretty bad. But I'm happy to report that the medications are starting to work for her, and she is starting to, to kind of come down, and the medication is starting to work for her. And she's starting to make sense, and she still has her rambling a little bit, but not like it was last week. So God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. So in that specific case, and even in another one, there's some really challenging patients on my little close observations unit. And God has, He came into my life this morning, and I went in with an intention of being tolerant and kind to these people, and it worked out. Referring to our list again, putting out of our minds the wrongs others had done, we resolutely looked for our own mistakes. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened? Yeah. Selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, and frightened. Frightened for sure. Self-seeking. I wake up in the morning and it's me, right? And, them. Luckily, I have friends in AA. I have this one friend, Mark. I can call him up and, I'll be like, oh my God, I got to talk to somebody. I had a problem. I need to throw it at you. And then, tell me what to do, and he don't even need to hear it. He goes, hold on, before you start, you're wrong, but go ahead. And I tell him everything that happened. And while maybe what I needed to transmit or communicate was right, how I said it was completely wrong. I'm the one that it was the amends. And I had to go back and do it, right? Though a situation had not been entirely our fault, we tried to disregard the other person involved entirely. Where were we to blame? The inventory was ours, not the other man's. When we saw our faults, we listed them. We placed them before us in black and white. We admitted our wrongs honestly, and we were willing to set these matters on paper. So while I was listening to this, I was trying to write this list of my resentment list up by myself today, before this morning. And, and the person that I asked to listen to my fifth step was like, right out of the big book. And of course, I'm like writing my list without the big book. But as I'm listening to this, this person speaking on this step, and I'm like right there in the big book, so many things are coming, that I'm writing it down. I was resentful that, I started picking out people from like one job, and I'm like, nah, the whole place I have resentments at, so like, it's important that I get everything down, because I really want to be thorough. And since 2010, I've quit like 3 jobs. because they're all doing it wrong. I know that's just me. So hopefully I'll get to the root of this stuff and be able to make my amends and move on. The inventory was ours. We admitted our wrongs honestly and were willing to set these matters straight. Notice the word fear in bracketed alongside of the difficulties with Mr. Brown, Mr. Jones, and the employer and the wife. This short word somehow touches about every aspect of our lives. It was an evil and corroding thread. The fabric of our existence was shot through with it. It set in motion trains of circumstances which brought us misfortune we felt that we didn't deserve, but did not we ourselves set the ball rolling. Sometimes we think fear ought to be classified with stealing. It seems to cause more trouble. And that is the truth, because I know, especially at some of these jobs, it's easy for me to point the finger at how the organization does things, how whatever, at your boss. And, but then I don't handle things properly and I go behind their back or, like I got to, and then I tell too many people what just happened. And while, what just happened or what your boss did or another employee did may have very well been unethical, in most situations, I probably should have just went right to a supervisor or right to that person and like talk directly to them, or sometimes just nothing at all, that's why I need somebody to talk to about some of this stuff too, and say, okay, this was you, this, amends, we'll sort it out. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we thought we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Yes, I am too self-reliant. Gets me in trouble all the time. Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve our fear problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it grew worse. So absolutely. Perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, and a basis of trusting and relying upon God. We trust infinite God rather than our infinite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns, just to the extent that we do as we think He would have us and humbly rely on Him. Does He enable us to match calamity with serenity? There we go. So we trust infinite God rather than infinite selves. We are in the world to play the role He assigns us. So, I gotta really, this time, and I've done it many times, you fire yourself. When I don't like that God is summoning me to do a job, I put my hands over my ears and I kind of think, no, not me. That's not me. And God has different plans and I need to start listening to God. Not that start, I listen to God, but I pick and choose. Sometimes my sobriety looks like a Chinese menu, like a little from this column and a little from that column, but no, I don't like column B, Can't do that. So that's where I'm at right now. I'd like to have a new experience with the fourth and fifth step and continue to have another experience with 6, 7, get a solid list of amends, list of people that I owe amends to or things that I need to do to, if I can't make the amends, what am I going to do different? And then, make those amends and maintain through 10, 11, and 12. Yeah, daily review. Anyway, it's time to meditate. Enjoy. just a little now bell to help reposition if you need to. I stretch my legs out a little bit. My knees get sore quick. I stretched them out straight for the first part of the meditation. Before I actually sat down, I did about 10 minutes of stretching and breathing. Now we'll finish out the meditation. Had 8 minutes left. Breathing down to the belly, relaxing into the exhales. I'm having a lot of tension in small spots in my body, almost as if they're pinching. It's just about a half an hour. I am starting to fall asleep. So I'm going to end the meditation. I was hoping to go for 45 minutes. Sometimes it's difficult after work. So thank you for, if anyone is ever out there and they see this meditation, I do appreciate your meditating with me for this half hour. Kamsahamnida. Have a good night.